Hello everyone, this is PRAGNA and I heartily welcome all of you to session 14 of Easy Learning with PRAGNA. Today in this video, we are going to discuss about this topic called metals and non-metals. So this topic is actually very easy for chemistry, and before we could actually enter into this chapter called metals and non-metals, there are a few terms that we have to be familiar with. That is something about elements. So basically, elements are substances which are made up of same type of atoms. This is exactly what you mean by elements. So there are 118 elements in all that are found. The total number of elements we have in our periodic table is 118. So out of these 118 elements, they have classified these 118 elements into metals, non-metals and metalloids using some important criteria. So we will discuss about that criterion in this chapter, metals and non-metals. So what is the use of classifying these elements into metals, non-metals and metalloids? Why did they even classify them? Is because imagine you're asked to study about these elements, these 118 elements, about each physical properties and chemical properties of these 118 elements. It becomes a little difficult for you to remember each and every physical and chemical property of each and every metal out of these 180. So if they classify them into different categories based on some common physical and chemical properties, it becomes easy. Like this part, okay, these metals, okay, these are physical and chemical properties of these elements. It becomes easy for you to understand and learn if they are classified into some categories rather than learning each and everything in a detailed manner. It is for that reason that they have classified these 118 elements into different categories: metals, non-metals and metalloids. So you're going to learn a lot about metals and non-metals in this chapter. But then what are metalloids? Metalloids are those substances or elements which have some properties of metals to classify them into different categories. Let us enter into this chapter without any delay. Now, the first thing that we have to do in this chapter is to find the physical properties of metals and non-metals. So now let us enter into the physical properties of metals. So basically in our NCERT, we have done a lot of activities in order to find some physical properties of metals and non-metals. So I am going to discuss about those activities which are really important. But apart from that, I am just going to discuss about the physical properties of metals directly. The first physical property is that they have something called metallic luster. What do you mean by luster? It's nothing but metals are shining. They shine in their pure form. So what you have to do is take a metal, any metal like magnesium, but then you have to use something called sandpaper which removes all the impurities in them, and then if you observe, they are shiny in nature. That is, they have something called metallic luster in them. This is the first physical property of metals. The next one is they are hard in nature. Just try to take some metals and then take a sharp knife and try to cut it. Maybe it is possible for a few metals or it is not possible for a few metals. So this says that metals as a whole are hard in nature, irrespective of the hardness. That is, maybe a few metals are a little easy to cut, or maybe the hardness varies from one metal to another. But as a whole, we can conclude that metals are hard in nature. The next one is malleability. What do you mean by this? Now, for this, you just have to take a metal and then put it at place, and then take a hammer and then try to hit it maybe 3 or 4 times, such that it would be made into a sheet. So, this property of metals in which it can be made into thin sheets is called malleability. This is again a physical property of metals. The next property is ductility. That is, you must have observed some metallic wires, made up of copper or silver. So this property of metals in which it can be made into thin wires is called ductility, which is again a physical property of metals. The next is, but before I could discuss the next physical property, I just wanted to say that gold is the most malleable and most ductile metal. Or maybe it is for that reason that it is used for making jewelry. Maybe because it is most malleable and most ductile. It can be made into any form that we wish so. So gold is the most malleable and ductile metal. The next property is that metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Only because if they were good conductors of heat and electricity, that we use metals for utensils. Like we find copper utensils, aluminium utensils. It is because they are good conductors of heat. And we find copper wires, silver wires. It is because they are good conductors of electricity. These are again a few physical properties of metals. The next is they have high melting point. This is a point that you have to remember. They have very high melting point. And the next one is sonorous. That is when they are hit with anything, they give a sound, a typical sound, and that is called sonorous. So these are some physical properties out of many we have for metals. If we have to find the physical properties of non-metals, it is actually the opposite of metals. Many properties of metals are quite opposite to non-metals. Like, the physical properties of non-metals, they are not malleable, they are not ductile. They are soft in nature, that is opposite to this. They are not malleable, they are not ductile. And they are bad conductors of heat and electricity. They have low melting point. And they do not have metallic luster. They do not shine. So it's just quite opposite to metals is the property of non-metal. That is, they are not lustrous, they are soft in nature, and they are not malleable, they are not ductile. They are bad conductors of heat and electricity, and they have very low melting point. So these are some physical properties of non-metals. So once you be thorough with the physical properties of metals, it is very easy for you to deal with physical properties of non-metals. Just one second. Now, let us look at some exceptional cases. That is mercury. Mercury is actually a metal, but it exists in liquid form at room temperature. So all metals, except a few like mercury, are solid at room temperature. But coming to mercury, it is liquid in room temperature. So this is an exceptional case. And next, coming to gallium, which is again a metal, have very low melting point. But as per the physical properties of metals, all metals have very high melting point. But coming to gallium, which is also considered to be a metal, has very low melting point. And the next one is iodine. Iodine is a non-metal, but it is lustrous. As per the physical properties of non-metals are not lustrous. They do not shine. But here, in this case, they are lustrous. Iodine is very lustrous. And coming to diamond, which is an allotrope of carbon. That is, it is a non-metal, but still, it is hard. It is one of the hardest substances we have. So, then why is it even considered to be a non-metal? Diamond is a non-metal, but it is hard. The next exception is graphite. Graphite again is a non-metal, but it is a conductor of electricity. As per the physical properties of non-metals, they are bad conductors of electricity and heat. But this graphite is a conductor of electricity. Like this, you have so many exceptional cases if we have to deal with physical properties itself. Now, looking at all these exceptions, it is actually not very efficient for us to classify elements into metals, non-metals and metalloids using physical properties itself. So, I think chemical properties will better deal with classifying because maybe exceptions would be less in that case. So, these are some exceptions for physical properties. Let's just try to, classify them based on chemical properties in the next video. So if you guys are anyway connected with us, please don't forget to like and subscribe my channel. Thank you.